Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video, bit of a feedback video today. We'll go through some of the comments on yesterday's video, have a bit of a chat about some of those and also some of the things that have been happening in Spain over the last day or so. As always, lots and lots of things happening in the press here, lots of different stories about what's going on at the moment, what the future is going to look like here in Spain, and we'll have a bit of a chat about some of those things as well. Coming to you again from my garden. I'm stuck at home at the moment because my son obviously hasn't started school yet, so I have to take care of him until he goes back, so I can't get out on the road and choose a better location for these videos at the moment, so you'll just have to put up with my overgrown garden in the background for the time being. And the changing conditions in light, it's a bit cloudy today, so you might notice that in the video as well today. Anyway, let's get on with it. I'm feeling a bit better today. I mentioned the other day that I might have had a bit of post-vacational depression. I seem to get that every year when I come back to Madrid. I don't know what the reason for that is. Maybe it's living in this part of the world. I originally come from the coast. I lived on the coast for the first 30 years of my life, and I'm going to be honest, I miss the coast. For me, having that sea breeze in your face every day and being able to see the ocean and the open waters, for me, is priceless. And in this part of the world, unfortunately, you can't get any of that. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's video that there was some good news in Spain, that case numbers were on the decrease in certain autonomous communities. Apparently I spoke too soon, as the bad news came later in the day with a huge amount of cases reported over the weekend in Spain. And one of the autonomous communities that has seen an increase in cases is Catalonia. So it's not easy to know what's going on at the moment. You read something one day and it changes completely the next. So very confusing times we are living at the moment. Very, very difficult to get your head around what's going on in this country at the moment. Now, one of the topics I spoke about in yesterday's video was an article in a British newspaper, I think it was The Telegraph, and they said that Spain is a country that parties too hard, and the country's love of partying could be behind the recent uptick in the amount of cases in the country. And let's be honest, Spain does have a reputation as a party country, especially certain parts of the country. If you go to the coastal areas in summer, if you go to the Balearic Islands, Ibiza, Mallorca, even in the Canary Islands, you can get the impression that this is a country where people only want to party. And there are, not surprisingly, lots and lots of people in Spain that don't want the country to have that reputation. They want the country to be taken more seriously. They want to get rid of these old stereotypes in their opinion. They want the country to portray a different image to people around the world. But as I have mentioned in other videos, it's not easy to do because Spain has all of the characteristics to make it a fantastic party country. The weather's good the majority of the year, alcohol prices are cheap, there's a fairly relaxed attitude to drinking in this country, the police are not overly heavy-handed when it comes to drinking, and a lot of people do come to this country to have a good time. I saw one person in the comment section refer to Benidorm, and they said that Benidorm is a place where only Brits party hard. You don't really see Spanish people partying hard in Benidorm. Now, I don't agree with that because there is a separation of where people party in that city. The British have got their area and the Spanish have got their area, and the way people party is different as well. British people, when they party, and Australians too, go hard, but they go hard early and it's a lot more visible. For example, you can see British people or Australians drunk at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and of course it makes it a lot more visible. Whereas Spanish people like to party later in the evening. They don't like to start partying until around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. That's when the locals start to party in Spain, and a lot of people are in bed around those times, so it's not really visible. To give you an idea on some of the differences in the way people party here, on New Year's Eve, people won't go out to party until 1 o'clock in the morning or even 1:30 after they've had their family dinner. Whereas in Australia on New Year's Eve, most people are cactus by 1 a.m. But here in Spain, they're just warming up. So that's a huge difference. But as I said, many people outside the country only see Spain as a place to have a good time. And it's going to be hard, in my opinion, to change that image of the country. Now, another thing that caught my attention today in the press was the fact that the Attorney General's office here in Spain has come out and said that the Spanish government should not be held criminally responsible for their handling of the coronavirus pandemic. There were lots of official complaints filed by various political groups and various organisations about how the government was handling the situation. There was a lot of talk about prevarication, reckless homicide, workplace risk, and I think in total there were 20 different complaints filed against the government for their handling of the pandemic in Spain. So the Attorney General's office coming out and saying that the government is not to blame and they are not responsible for anything that happened during those months. So we'll see how that decision is dealt with by the press in coming days. Now, I've also read a few comments in recent times about people that are having difficulty getting their NIE number here in Spain. The NIE number being the Número de Identidad de Extranjero, which is the equivalent of the Spanish DNI card that everybody has to have in Spain. For me, it was one of the first things that I had to get in order to become a legal resident in this country, and it was a very, very difficult process back in the day, some 22 years ago. So I'm surprised to see that it's still not easy to get this number. Apparently some of the complaints are that there's been a huge backlog, that it's taking a very, very long time to get all of the applications processed. And of course the fact that the country was virtually closed there for 3 or 4 months doesn't make the situation any easier. And of course at the moment there's lots of people from the UK scrambling to get that NIE number. And that could also be one of the causes for the backlog. But as I said, even 22 years ago, it wasn't an easy experience to get this number. In fact, I've never spent more time in a queue than I did when I was waiting to get my residency card in 1998. I remember getting up at 5:30 in the morning, going to the police station where I had to get everything done. It was in the centre of Madrid, so it wasn't easy to get there at that time in the morning. And I thought I was going to be the first person there. But when I got there, there was about 30 or 40 people already waiting. I took my place at the end of the queue, and of course that queue kept on growing and growing and growing. And then of course when the police station finally opened, I think it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, the queue disappeared and everybody flooded to the door. It was absolute chaos. However, I will say that in recent times it's been a lot easier. Now I just go to a local police station here, there's never anybody there, and I get my residency card renewed quite easily nowadays. So I am surprised to see that it is still a nightmare for some people. Now, there was also a bit of talk in the comment section about the different types of food here in Spain. Spanish food for some people can be a little bit difficult to get used to. There was a comment the other day from a lady who every time she goes to have tapas with her Spanish neighbour, she gets called fussy because she's not willing to eat some of the food on offer. Now, personally, I don't have a problem with Spanish food. I eat virtually everything. In fact, the only thing I think I've turned down over the years was pig's blood. I drew the line at that, but I haven't had a problem with other types of food here in Spain. Whether it's meat, whether it's seafood, whether it's fish, normally I'm fairly open to all types of food. But I can understand that for some people, some types of food here can be a bit off-putting. Like, for example, cheek, ear and trotters can be a bit off-putting for some, and maybe some of the seafood can be a little bit off-putting as well. For example, those little goose barnacles which are popular in Galicia, percebes as they are known here. Definitely not for everyone, but in general I give Spanish cuisine a big thumbs up. And finally, somebody suggested that I do a video on the different autonomous communities here in Spain, some of the differences between, say for example, Galicia, Catalonia, the Basque Country, Madrid, Andalusia, Valencia, all of the different regions here in Spain, and what some of those differences are. And to be honest, there are a lot of differences depending on where you are in Spain. For example, it's not the same to live in the Basque Country as it is to live in Andalusia. In my opinion, there's a lot more services available in the Basque Country than there is in the south. Some people say that the hospital system is better there. Some people say that the education system's better there, better public transport, and better services in general. One of the autonomous communities here in Spain where people complain a lot that they don't get very good services is in Extremadura. They complain that they don't have a good train system. A lot of people complain about the education system there, that there's not a lot of opportunities for young people. So there can be a lot of differences from one area to the next here in Spain. And that's one of the aspects of this country, that not all of the autonomous communities are equal. And it's also one of the things that bothers a lot of local people here as well. For example, in Madrid, we always hear about the concessions that are given to Catalonia, for example. We always hear about the concessions that are given to the Basque Country. And it does make a lot of people living in the central part of the country quite angry. But anyway, it's the way the country works, and I can't see that it's going to change anytime soon. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Debate the situation out as you normally do. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.